Well, first, that's a really great question. And I think the very first place to start is take a look at your hiring process. And what does that mean? Look at the entire organizational goals. If your organization doesn't have any goals, how can you possibly interview someone and let them know how they're going to contribute to those goals? So first and foremost, you've got to look at the overall vision of the organization. Where are you taking it? What is the contribution of your organization? What is your vision, your mission, your values? Now, a lot of people think that that's just a poster on a board. It's so much more than that. These are foundational pieces because the reality is this generation entering the workforce and in the workforce want to be part of something bigger. And if you're going to be out there making a contribution through your work, through your products, through your services, then this is an integral piece of that interview process. So they know that what is the culture of that organization? What are you up to? What is the contribution your products and services are in the world? This is what they want to be part of, and that is critical. So that is part of the process. And another piece of the process is, how is this position going to directly relate to those goals in the organization? And many people say, oh, I need an assistant. I need this, I need that. Okay, great. You've identified that you need something, but what specifically is it? How is that position? What are the metrics? What do you expect of that position? And in what time frame? Okay, so that is really key. How is that position going to be successful? Because you're going to generate this, you're going to handle and be responsible for this outcome. So those values should be demonstrated in action. They should be talked about in the employee meetings. They should be used in the state of the company address. And how are they actually demonstrated each and every day? So if you have a value of excellence, how is that excellence determined by a behavior? The other piece, and most companies have not operationalized this at a level where people see that they are part of that brand. They are part of developing that company culture, and it is critical. Yep. And the other piece is understanding how you want that position to be executed. Case in point, I had a company who had 99% turnover. So if you look at 99% turnover in one department, I mean, the manager can't focus on the strategic goals of the organization or that department. They're burn and churn, right? Yeah. And the customer is impacted. So we had this customer oriented department where they received incoming phone calls, helped the customer, typed on the computer. And I said, from a human wiring standpoint, which is different than behaviors, human wiring is something you're born with. It's present at birth. It stays with you your entire lifetime. But most people don't understand it at a level. But once they do, they see the value in it. And this one company was hiring just the wrong person. I said, who are you hiring in this position that you have 99% turnover? And they said, well, you know, we're hiring people who like face-to-face communication, who can juggle multiple things. And I said, hold up, how's that working? They said, well, it's not. We got 99% turnover. I said, well, let's look at this very objectively. The person that's in the position the longest and has been successful, how is she naturally wired? And they said, well, we're sure she's, I said, hold up. Have you had her take the assessment? And when they thought about it, they're like, well, actually we didn't. And when they did, they realized, oh, this person is more methodical. Yeah. They're warm and friendly over the phone. And here's why. That position was fairly routine, and she was wired to like that routine. She would enhance the conversation over time once she learned it. So then we began using psychometric words to attract the ideal client or ideal employee into that role. And they went from 99% turnover to 0 in 3 months, simply by, and if you think about that, simply by understanding who best thrives in the role. And guess what? It's a win. It's a win-win-win, I say.
Yep.
It's a win for the employee because they're doing a job they love. It's a win for the employer. And most importantly, it's a win for your customers because they're going to experience somebody who loves their job. There are opportunities that happen all the time. And as a leader, it's important not only to understand how you're wired and your wiring and how that can impact your communication, but also how is that other person wired? How do you deliver the communication that honors them in the way they want to receive it and coach them the way they need to be coached or even managed? I had a client who called me one day completely stunned because her employee, very nice, and the reason she hired her, she was more methodical, she followed up and followed through on the details, but she suddenly blew up at her and she goes, I don't understand what I did, because the CEO operated without awareness of her own human wiring. She was constantly interrupting her assistant. Her assistant, though, was wired to handle a task, complete it, move on to the next. She was most productive when she had time and elements alone to do the work. And she was continuously interrupting her to a point where her assistant didn't know how to tell her boss, you leave me alone so I can complete my work. And she blew up at her. Not a great ideal situation. So when the CEO started explaining this to me, I realized what was happening. And I said, look, can you meet with that employee and manage her differently by meeting her in the morning, identifying the priorities of the day? And if the priorities shift, send her an email, say, hey, come see me. I need to, button down what you're doing, come see me. We have to switch gears. This allows the person that she's managing, her brain is wired differently. So she needs to button down what she's working on and then move to the next project,
right,
or see her. And when she did this, we looked at, and we put some metrics in place, and she increased her productivity 40% in 30 days. So what was it? Jim Rohn said, success is not to be pursued. Success is to be attracted by the person you become. And so if you want to be a better you, the best you, the most attractive you to other employers, focus on your own personal development. And so, yes, reading what's happening, what are the trends, is very helpful, particularly if you have an interest and a passion that you want to pursue. And really understand who you are, your strengths, your superpowers that often come in human wiring, from that human wiring, and also come from personal development, that you have the ability. We talk about the soft skills. They're more than soft skills. Those are critical skills. Because what happened is, over time, especially for younger people, they learned a lot about texting. It's a whole different skill to be able to communicate with somebody verbally. So I do recommend that people brush up on their verbal communication skills, because that is what employers are frustrated by, particularly when they hire someone, is that person wants to send a text. Well, depending on who your clients are, not everybody likes text. Text can be misinterpreted. And the more that you have the personal development and distinctions that you can work through because of that personal development, and stay away from the drama, and you are more productive employee because of it, that's what's really going to attract employers. And really understand your personal brand, your superpowers. and that you present yourself, particularly on LinkedIn, as your personal brand, what you post, what you like, what you, what you're about, with the contribution that you want to make in the world as an individual. A lot of people don't think about this, but yeah, the company has a contribution in the world through their products and services, but you as the individual, what are you up to? What do you want in the world? How do you want it to look? And what stand are you going to be in the world?